Be'ezat Hashem will be the first night of Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Tomorrow and Friday, Rosh Chodesh Kislev, a very happy and joyous month for Am Israel, corresponding to November 7, 2018. Today's Gemara from Masechet Baba Kama discusses about the challenges that the world experiences on a regular basis. And I'm not talking about election, who won, who lost. You can follow the news for that. Each city, each state, each governor on its own right and merit. But we know that we live in a very challenging world. If it's in the world of finances, if it's in the world of politics, if it's in the world of terrorism, of anti-Semitism, all these things, unfortunately, are our lives directly or indirectly. I just heard a beautiful shi'ur earlier today from Hacham Ben Sion Musafi Shelita, which I'm sure the Kahal heard in the past, one of the top Sephardic Hachamim of our generation. And he explains that we cannot be of today. And although I just said the word Jewish world, because obviously many of the incidents that have been happening in the world are directly affecting Am Israel. And the Rabbi mentioned three particular scenarios. Number one, the unfortunate tragedy of Pittsburgh, that we already discussed several days in a row, and we hope that Hashem brings consolation to the families and speedy recovery for all the wounded, and obviously protection for Am Israel and for mankind worldwide, because no one is safe. And I'm sorry to make it sound perhaps a bit dramatic, in a beautiful sunny day in paradise known as Aventura, Florida, but the reality of life is that unfortunately there is a lot of, let's call it, loose cannons around, all around. If you remember the incident in Tallahassee a few days ago, northern part of Florida, and schools and Parkland and many other tragedies. And the great Rabbi explained that in Eretz Israel, there have been a lot of tragedies recently. Perhaps not associated to terrorism, which unfortunately was or is a main concern in the land of Eretz Israel, as it is all over the world. Going to public places now became more of a, let me think twice, let me profile, let me look around, get to the airport 2 hours before, your bag needs to be an hour before the flight, don't make jokes at the airport, don't make, inappropriate, don't use words which are, Chas v'Shalom, problematic at the airport. Like I told you the story one night, I get a phone call from South America. We protect the country, not to embarrass the country or the people. And what happened? A young man, a professional, made a joke with the ticket agent at the counter, checking on a flight to fly back home. And the agent asked the traveler, do you carry any weapons, any bombs, any grenades, like that? And the fellow, in a sarcastic way, says, yes, I have a couple of bombs stuffed with cream and chocolate. In South America, some words that in one language means something, in a different language means something else. Okay? And the name of this pastry in this country means a bomb. Bomba in Spanish. You can have it full of chocolate or full of custard filling. I love those, by the way. Why is it called bomb? Because when you eat it, the entire cream comes out. I think in America they call them an eclair. Eclair, right? Chocolate eclair. I know about pastry, talk to me about it. They're not my friends lately. We are on a not talking terms. We keep a distance, for obvious physical reasons, Baruch Hashem. And the lady behind the counter, what did she do? She pressed the panic button. In a minute, 2 officers came, put him in jail, and we needed to post a bond overnight. And for 10 years, he was not allowed to come to the United States. He had to stay in the city for 60 days until the judge cleared the case. And after a lot of prayer and mercy from Hashem, obviously the person was sent back home, one-way ticket, 10 years forbidden entry in the United States. So we need to be careful, Rabotai. And yes, when they say, if you see something, say something, don't stay quiet. Eretz Israel, unfortunately, had witnessed a lot of tragedies involving children. If it's for measles, if it's for ununderstandable type of illnesses, has v'shalom, or as simple as a tragic car accident that 8 lives were lost literally in 1 minute. And people saw what was going on. Some obviously after the accident, and no one was able to do anything. So the great Rabbi mentions, and he quoted the sources, which at this moment I do not remember, but he said that there are many things that Chas v'Shalom creates this type of midat hadin, so to speak, the attribute of judgment to become activated. Sometimes, the great Rabbi said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what does he do? He takes away Tzaddikim. This is not his Hidush. It's actually the Torah saying this. When the Torah talks about, or when we remember the reading of Yom Kippur, the reading of Yom Kippur. What is the reading of Yom Kippur? Ahare mot shene bene Aharon. We read about the passing of the sons of Aharon HaKohen. And the question is asked, if the sons of Aharon passed away in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, okay, why do I need to read about them in the day of Yom Kippur? So Rashi says, Mitat Tzaddikim Mechaperet. It says, when righteous men and women of the Jewish people pass away, especially great tzaddikim, great tzaddikot, that is Borei Olam buying a lifeline for the Jewish people. This is plan A. Plan B, he says, there is another enemy of the Jewish people. And we're not talking about the external enemy of Am Israel, but we're talking about the internal enemy of the Jewish people. This word, he said it, is the topic of mahloket. Mahloket in English means what? Argument. Argument. And unfortunately, in some circles, mahloket is alive and well. And I will tell you one more, that this mahloket that we're talking about is not limited only between the movements which are pro-Torah and the movements which are against the Torah. That is already 200-year argument, 2,000 years argument. But we're talking about the separation that at times it exists even within the people of a very same community, even within the Jewish religious Torah observant world. And the great Rabbi said that there is a great pasuk from David HaMelech describing one of the biggest weapons of Am Israel are the prayer of children. Is a pasuk in the book of Tehillim that says, "Mipi olelim beyonekim misad ta'oz." From the mouth of the children, from the mouth of the nursing babies, you establish the strength of Am Israel. So the great Rabbi sent the message to the Jewish people that every synagogue should make the effort at least once a week in the day of Shabbat to gather the children of the Kahal to read 2 chapters of Tehillim. Simple. Shilama alot esa'ina ile'arim lam yaseyach mizmor le'David yancha Hashem b'yom sarat. 2, not 20, 2. And have in mind that these chapters of Tehillim will be for the welfare of the entire Jewish people, to be saved, to be protected from illnesses, calamities, tragedies, terrorism, and whatever unfortunate situation that have been taking over the news in the past few recent weeks. Now, let's read the Gemara's now opinion in these tragedies. Amar Rabbi Shemuel bar Nehmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, En pur'anud ba'al ha'olam illa בזמן שהרשעים בעולם, ואין המתחילה מן הצדיקים תחילה. Gemara simple, Gemara Baba Kama, page 60b. It says, Rabbi Shemuel bar Nehmani, in the name of Rabbi Yonatan, decrees or tragedies don't come to the world, but on the time that there is wickedness in the world. And who are the first victims? The Saddiqim. And there are 2 types of Saddiqim. Adult Saddiqim and junior Saddiqim. The Saddiqim, adults, means the great Hachamim, the great Rashi Yeshivot, the great Hacham Bashis, the great Hasidic rabbis. In other words, the Rosh Yeshivot. That's what we're talking about, Saddiqim. In Hebrew, many times, you know, you say to an average person, is a Saddiq who? Is a Saddiq who? That's a good wishing word. But the truth of the matter is that in this term of the Gemara, Saddiq means a righteous person. A true bona fide righteous person. That the passing of this great person, it affects the world. How many times Hachamim passed away? How many thousands of people go to the burial? Hacham Obadiah Yosef, remember the burial of the great Rabbi 5 years ago? How many people came to the funeral? 800,000. Not 80 or 18 or scrap a million from here and there. 800,000. When the other great Rabbi, Rabbi Eliashiv, Rabbi Steinman, Aleim Shalom, also, all these Tzaddikim merited to have 6 figures burials. And this is counting, you know, the men, including children. The ladies have a different census. For obvious reasons, they don't mingle. And in many religious circles, the ladies rather, do not go into the cemetery. And especially where modesty could be an issue, having several 100,000 men is not simple. Okay? We're talking about great tzaddikim. It shakes the nation. And that's what Rashi says concerning the day of Yom Kippur. Rashi says, like the day of Yom Kippur atones the Jewish people, the passing of tzaddikim atones for the Jewish people. Then we have Tzaddik Junior. Who are the Tzaddik Junior? The children. And unfortunately, lately, have been many tragedies affecting children, including not far from here. Yesterday, I got the email earlier today about a child medical condition. Haz v'shalom. Israel we discussed before, accidents, etc. So, what do we do? What do we do? I mean, the Gemara continues bringing an interesting pasuk, and it says, Bisman shehakosim mesuayim la. The Gemara says, whenever you have dry grass, it creates fire. Dry grass, the Gemara refers to those that their behavior can have the power of destruction. Now, you may ask, Rabbi, what kind of behavior can bring destruction to the world? So I think that you should know this answer, because we discussed this topic several weeks ago when it came to Perashat Noah and Perashat Lech Lecha, when the Torah talks about two particular sins that affected mankind. One is the concept of Hamas. Hamas, in this statement, does not mean the terrorist group in Israel. Rashi says Hamas means gezel, stealing from people, lack of honesty between people, hurting people financially, etc. Another topic, serious, mishkav zachor, same gender relationship. Another topic, mahloket, as the great Rabbi mentioned before. So we don't have to go far and to say we're going to fast twice a week, or we're not going to eat Mondays and Thursdays, since the night before. If you want to do that, that's your own decision. But the best way to reverse the negativity that exists in the world is by being proactive in good actions, in good deeds. So I'm sure that no one here is involved in a same gender relationship. But guess what? That also is connected, so to speak, the topic of holiness to the topic of Taharat HaMishpacha, the concept of family purity. So how do we reverse the negative force of immorality? By living a holier life. That's it. Now, how do we reverse the concept of argument, of fighting, of bickering between people in trying to pursue peace, like the midah of Aharon? In other words, from the negative, we need to bring the positive. And I said this last week, and we have to say it again, because this is the Gemara of today. I don't pick the topic. The topic picks us. The topics are written. The writing is on the wall. So, when we work on ourselves, in being more honest, more truthful, friendlier, more proper, more respectful, living a holier way of life, at all levels, if you're married, in your marriage, and if you're single, in your single life, guess what? Remember what the famous statement of the Chovat HaLevavot says. I believe is attributed to him, and if it's not him, to different great Chachamim. Kesat or dohe arbe min hachoshech. A little bit of light dissipates darkness. I ask you a question, and I hope that you're not going to answer this in the way that I don't want you to answer. It's in the middle of the night, okay? You're sleeping at night, the room is dark, middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you need to go to the restroom, okay? What do? Do you turn on the light in your bedroom to disturb your wife sleeping? Or the opposite? You are sleeping and she needs to go because everybody has bodily needs. Okay? So, does she light the light in the bedroom? I hope that no one turns on the light in the bedroom. Why? Because that shows a lack of sensitivity to the other person. Some people, because of this situation, and they know that they do need to go to the restroom in the middle of the night, what do? They leave a night plug-in light, that when they get out of bed, they see where they are walking, because you have to understand, some people have age, and some people need to see where they are walking. Some people may use the light of the cell phone. But what happens once you turn on the light of the cell phone in your dark room? Darkness is almost gone. Okay? And I brought this example because I think this is something that throughout our life we can all relate. Turning on the light. I remember a few years back, somebody emailed me a shidduch questionnaire. Like there is a profile for shidduchim, name, education, parents, hobbies, references. Then sometimes they send a shidduch questionnaire. They send you a page with 10, 20 questions, especially in the yeshiva boys system. And one of the question is, listen to this question, how was, let's call him Moshe, how was Moshe behavior during the sleeping in the yeshiva years when he came into the room and everybody else was sleeping? Option A, did he turn on the light? Did he make a lot of noise? Did he leave the door of the room open? These are the questions that people ask. Now, I'm not telling you to go to that extreme. That is a thing, I personally believe, that kind of questions for a shidduch, you know. But let's talk about in the reality of marriage. What did they say before? Kesat or, a bit of light erases and removes a lot of darkness. We live, Rabotai, and I repeat this again, we live in challenging moments. You cannot be oblivious to the facts. You cannot be, even the election yesterday. Now that the election is over, whoever won, Mazel Tov, whoever lose, Beseder, I'm sorry. And the amendments and the questions and the ballots, so many complaints were about the ballots. I wanted to write to them. And he said, your question is a tricky question. I don't even know which amendment I'm talking about. 3, 4, 11, 12. And some questions, they were bundled with other questions. So you say, question on the top of the paragraph, yes. Question in the middle, no. And question on the bottom, I don't know. But they only gave me one option. You understand? So we live in a very confusing type of world. But this is not only us. This is the entire world. Not only because of the election. Even the political, let's call it arenas. Okay? Popularity now is determined not by how proper and respectful and honest you are. Today, the more liberal you are, the more Hazak Baruch you have. You understand? So we live, Rabotai, in a world that we need to become the lamplighters. We need to be the flashlights of the world. And Rabotai, this is not me saying this to you. This is the Torah telling us. We are Nerot Lehair. Each and every one of us, without exception, from the youngest person in the room, there's a lot of competition for that, to the more senior citizens, age in the room. Each one in their way. At home, in the street, in the business, in the synagogue, with your fellow peers, with your partners, with your wife, with your children. Believe me, every time that we do something good, something better than we used to do in the past, we are tilting the scale for the goodness of the world. Who says this? The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, look at yourself like you are 50-50. 50 mitzvot, 50% I mean, 50% mitzvot, 50% averot. Every time we do a good deed, we tilt the scale. Guess what? Each one of us is a world. Ha'olam nibra bishvili. The world was created for me. What's the meaning for me? For me to develop and become a better person than I am today. And tomorrow, I'm going to become better than today. And the day after, better than tomorrow. If we think like this, that every baby step, as the Ben Ish Chai talks about the topic of tzedakah. And the Ben Ish Chai said, doesn't matter how much you give. The main thing is, give. Peruta, peruta, mistarefet. Suddenly after 120 years, the person, remember in the olden days, today I don't think anybody has them, probably there's some bank that still give it. Remember they used to give you a savings passbook? And every time you made a deposit, you went to the bank teller and they put it on the machine and recorded the deposit. Today I don't think that anybody has those. Although there are some people who still are afraid of the world of technology, but this is the reality of today. But most of us, everything, I don't remember when was the last time I walked into a bank. I don't remember. Everything you do online, you pay online, you have the checks online, you deposit. You don't have to go to the bank even to make a deposit. That's why many banks are shutting down branches. Because the traffic of people, it went down so much that they are downsizing. Same thing with the big companies. Home Depot, Lowe's, Sears, Macy's, Kmart, Refuah Shelema or Alav Shalom. I don't know exactly. I think Alav Shalom. I think Kmart, is out, right? Sears. And Sears as well? Wow. I remember the only store to buy appliances here in Miami 30 years ago, 25 years ago. You wanted appliances? Sears.
It's still online.
Oh, that's why? Because now we move to the online world. It's good because people are buying more. But it's not good because stores are closing down. So we pray to Hashem to send Parnasah to everybody that needs it. So we understand that we live in a world that every good deed that we do, it will benefit the world. And Be'ezat Hashem, when that happens, there is great blessing to the world. And at the end of the day, Ubchash v'har Hashem Elokecha. At the end of the day, yes, we carry on our shoulders the responsibility of the world. And I know that some people may say, why, Rabbi? There is another pasuk that says, Ki atem ma'at mikol ha'amim. You are the smallest nation of the world. True. If you look around the world, the smallest nation of history is Am Israel. But guess what? Many mighty and great nations and empires tried to destroy us, and they failed. We're going to be celebrating from now, 3 weeks from now, 3.5 weeks, Hanukkah. What is Hanukkah all about? Our survival. That is what Hanukkah is all about. Hanukkah is the survival of Am Israel. The spiritual victory of Am Israel. We don't celebrate the physical survival in Hanukkah. That was Purim. Purim is the survival of the Am Israel as a nation in a physical way. Hanukkah is the survival from a spiritual perspective. And how do we know this? The short answer is that if you remember the story of Hanukkah, what was the decrees of the Greeks? Don't live by the Torah. Be Jewish. Be Jewish. We don't let you don't be a Jew. But just don't live by the Torah. No Milah, no Kashrut, no Shabbat, no Rosh Chodesh, no Tefillin, no Torah learning. You can do the rest. You say, Rabbi, not a big deal. From 613, they took out only 7. You have 608. Chas v'shalom. We know very well that those 7 or 8 mitzvot that they took and they made decree against Am Israel is the oxygen of Am Israel. Is the oxygen. You cannot compare, Chas v'shalom. You went to the barber and you told him, give me a short haircut, right? And in your language, a short haircut means the way you have now, just trim around. In his mind, short haircut means my haircut. Machine number 2, all around. You do number 0. You're a Hasid. I can't compete with you. I don't want to say what I want to say, but okay. Imagine yourself. Let's use his haircut as an example. You told the barber, okay, give me a short haircut, and you fall asleep. Or you were texting while he was giving you a haircut. And then you open your eyes, and you see, Uli, what happened to my hair? And he says, you told me short. So, short in the barber language means machine. Is that the end of the world? No. Because you know that in a month from now, 2 months from now, everything is going to grow back. But imagine yourself, God forbid, a person goes to a doctor for a treatment that requires amputation of a body part. What are you going to do? You're going to fight, and you're going to do whatever it's available at your disposal anywhere in the world to avoid an amputation. We agree on that? You agree on that? This is what the Greeks wanted to do. Amputate. You don't need Shabbat. You don't need Rosh Chodesh. Ladies don't need to go to the mikveh. You don't need to do milah to your kids. Do not learn Torah and Chalas. Guess what? That is amputation. Taking away the eyes, the hands, the feet, the ears, and the nose of the person. So what do you have? You can survive. That's a celebration of Hanukkah. And that's it's a pasuk in the Navi that says, Israel asher becha et pa'ar. Hashem, God, takes great pride in the actions of Am Israel. And guess what? One person has the power. We don't need to have 1,000. One person. Israel asher becha. Becha means you. You means individual. The pasuk didn't say bachem. The pasuk should have said bachem, meaning all of us. But the pasuk says becha, in you, individual. I need 10 seconds break. Don't stop. Thank you. Have a safe trip. Be careful. Be safe. Thank you. Let's continue, Rabotai. Yes, let's continue. Let's talk about, for a few moments, in the opening pasuk of the Zohar of today. This is interesting because this verse that the Zohar mentions from the book of Tehillim was a pasuk that we learned this past Tuesday morning in the Tehillim class for ladies in Spanish. We are holding in chapter 84 that everybody says every day of their life. The opening chapter of Tehillim of Minha. Lamnaseya hal agitir libne korach mizmor. This is how Minha in the Sephardic Siddur starts. Ashkenazi, I don't think they say this chapter. They start with the next one by the Ber. Sephardim begin with this chapter 84 of Tehillim. And David HaMelech writes in the book of Tehillim, Ashrei Adam Ozlo Bach. In English means, great is the merit of the person that has strength in him. The Zohar basically tells us in the introduction that this pasuk means that a person should have trust in a Kadosh Baruch Hu whenever it comes to do things in life, especially when it comes to matter of spiritual well-being. Continues the introduction of the Zohar, and it says, a Yehudi must remember that the one that always holds our hand, saves us, protects us, and shields us, is a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So you may ask and you say, Rabbi, if that's the case, why do you spend so much money in security? Why do you have so many protocols? Why do you have so many procedures? Why do you have so many videos, camera, alarms, etc.? Because we cannot separate the fact that there is a concept in Torah also known as hishtadlut. Hishtadlut in English means making an effort. I need to make an effort. I cannot rely on miracles. That a miracle will happen and miracles happen every day? For sure. I'll be the first one to tell you, I believe in miracles. And if you look for the miracles, they happen more often than we think. The problem is that many times we attribute miracles to other people. And that's why the introduction of the Zohar says, Ashrei Adam os lo bach. Great is the merit of the person that the trust is in a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And this is obviously a very important message that the Zohar utilizes as the springboard between the relationship of Yaakov and Esav, which although we already had a couple of colorful characters, like for example, Avraham Avinu had to deal with the challenges of his own father, Terah. Now we know, we learned this in the past, that Terah, he did Teshuvah, Baruch Hashem, at the end of his days. But for many years, Terah was the antidote, or I should say, Avraham Avinu was the antidote of Terah. Terah represented the poison, the Avodah Zarah, idolatry, manufacturing idols, selling idols, enticing people to do idolatry, to the point that Terah himself delivered Avraham Avinu to be burned alive in Ur Kasdim. And we know that Avraham Avinu survived. The Zohar mentions briefly also the three boys, Hananiah, Mishael, Ba'azariah, the three young Jewish men. When I mean young, means 10, 11, 12, below Bar Mitzvah, that they were taken away from Jerusalem together with thousands of boys and girls, that Nebuchadnezzar took them after the destruction of the first temple for immoral and unholy purposes. And what happened? What was the technique of Nebuchadnezzar to change the brain and change the heart and poison the neshama of these young Jewish boys and girls? Feeding them non-kosher food. And the Zohar will tell us some other time, what was the main menu every day in the courtyard of Nebuchadnezzar? Basar behalav, meat and dairy. Why? Because the fusion of meat and dairy, the mixing of meat and dairy, even though both of them may have been kasher, probably were not. But even if they are kasher, what happens when you mix them? What do you have now? Taref food. Taref food. Food that is not kasher. Because meat represents one aspect of life, and dairy represents a different aspect of life. The Ben Ish Chai says that these two elements, meat and dairy, are the way the world functions. The world functions to our benefit most of the time with what milk represents. But unfortunately, the world also functions to what meat represents. The whiteness of the milk from the cow, represents the chesed, the kindness. You understand? That we save the animal. We make the animal life to be healthier and easier. You know, if the animal is not milked 3 days, after 3 days, the animal goes to a tremendous amount of suffering. That's dairy, the meat. Then you have the meat. You understand? The meat, red, the slaughtering, the soak salting, the blood. That all represents Gevurah, the concept of din. And we don't mix meat and dairy. We don't mix Gevurah and din. That's why according to Kabbalistic writings, a person should not do this. For the video audience, a person should not do this. According to the halakha, when a person prays, how you should put your hands? The right over the left. When you do the Amidah, if you want to follow, the right over the left. In the Hasidic world, when they manufacture suits or bekitchers or capotes, each one on their tradition, how do they close? Right over left. When they sell Hasidic shirt for men, how are they? Right over the left. Like the ladies' garments, how are they? Right over the left. Why? Because the right represents Rahamim, mercy. And that's why the part of the female's body that carries a baby, how do you call it in Hebrew? Rechem. Rechem is from Rahamim. So the mother represents Rahamim. That's why the nursing is done through the mother. And the din, discipline, and hard working outside of the home. Let's clarify. Somebody the other day said to me in a Shalom Bayit dispute, my wife doesn't do anything. So I said to him, what do you mean she doesn't do anything? He says, I go to work, I hustle, I work, I buy, I sell. I said, and what your wife does? She gets up 6 o'clock in the morning, prepares 3 kids half asleep, or 2 kids half asleep, or 4 kids sometimes, and after they leave, makes up the bed, prepares the lunches the night before, sits down with you doing homework, going to PTA meetings, taking them from one activity to the other, prepares lunch for you to have, prepares dinner for you to have, and by the time you come to a clean, organized home. Oh, I didn't know she does all that. I said, Rohi, if you married so many years with so many kids, and you don't realize what your wife does, maybe let's trade in. Stay at home 3 days. No, Rabbi, I can't stand 1 day then. So everybody works. And being a mother and a caretaker of the home and the general of the home is a time much more complicated than traveling in business, eating out, having a good time, drinking coffee in the bar in the corner, and then coming home after 10, 12 hours of work. So everybody's responsibilities and work is recognized by the Torah, by the books of the Shalom Bayit, etc. So at the end of the day, what happened with Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah? They refused to eat. And they used to eat vegetables or fruits, whatever they had. But how long can a child survive and not showing a difference in the skin color and in the body when they don't eat protein, they don't eat dairy, they don't eat whatever they need to eat? And I know that today the doctors will tell you, don't give dairy, don't eat meat. Today we need to understand, Rabotai, that the food is different than the way it was 2,000 years ago. When you drank milk, you really drank milk. When you ate a vegetable, it was a real vegetable. It wasn't GMO vegetable or hormones injected in the meat or in the chicken or in the cow or in the way it is today. The processing of food. And they tell you today, buy better wild fish, don't buy farm-raised fish. And buy dairy items that doesn't have BHT, which is a hormone that inject in the animal, and buy meat that is free-roaming chickens and grass-fed animals. Yani, why they have, and buy organic fruits and vegetables, so you don't eat pesticides when you eat, understand? And again, I'm not promoting for you to go to Whole Foods when I finish and buy only from them. No. What I'm telling you is that how complicated life became. They poison us through food. People develop situations, and then you got to deal with medical challenges. We agree on that? Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And I hope the FDA is not unhappy, or the USDA, about what I just said. But this is the reality of life. How many times we read about recalls, right? Yes. Recalls of airbags, recalls of gadgets, recall of wire catching fire while you're charging the phone, recall of food of salmonella, recall of food poisoning, Haz v'shalom. I don't want to go further Sometimes I know too much and it's not good. But sometimes, somehow, I get to know a lot of things directly or indirectly. Mishael, Hananiah, Azariah, they refused to eat. And guess what? Nebuchadnezzar realized what happens. What did he do? He put them in the fire. What happened to them? They survived. They had emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Abraham Avinu, we say every day in our prayers. Beoseto me'ur kasdim besamta shemo Abraham. Terah, your own father, deliver you to the executioner. Which, by the way, it happened in the United States of America 24 hours or 48 or 72 hours ago. There was a candidate for a state governor position affiliated with the Republican Party. The Republican Party banned him, and the children of this fellow, they started to spread through news begging people not to vote for their father. Why? Because he has white supremacist views, bona fide, verified, and officialized. That's his platform against citizens of Hispanic heritage, Yehudim, African Americans, and anywhere that is not his color, his style. Baruch Hashem, good morning. Thank God. Obviously, he did not get too many votes. I hope he got 0 votes. But unfortunately, today we don't know. But I was so happy that the children step up to the plate and create an awareness to the nation. Be careful with our father. But let's reverse the story now. This was Terah with Abraham Avinu. When Abraham Avinu destroys the idols, what Terah does? He takes Abraham and delivers him to Nimrod. For what purpose? To be executed. Why? Because Abraham says, I don't believe in a human to be God. Because humans have limitations. And that's, by the way, the meaning of the word Nimrod. Nimrod, although it's a name, Nimrod, but in Hebrew, it comes from the root word mored, a rebel. He rebelled against God. He says, I am God, and you have to bow down to me. This was the madness that existed back then. Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov, the good guy. Esav, completely the opposite. That struggle didn't start today, the ones that we're talking about in our 21st century. This goes back in history. The struggle between the good and the evil. And Baruch Hashem, let's be honest, the majority of the world wants goodness. But there is a segment of population, perhaps due to brainwash and mental issues, as we know that unfortunately nowadays mental health became a whole new chapter, not only for insurance coverage, but the agnostic people. And this is unfortunate that we need to be so, how can I say, so sensitive about this topic. And we wish that everybody has a refuah shelema, a speedy recovery. But I repeat the opening statement of the Zohar HaKadosh, that a person must always pray for, I apologize for that, the person must always pray for clarity, for salvation, and for protection. There is nothing wrong to pray. I'm sure that we all pray. But now when you pray, pray for the entire world. Pray for our officers, that they risk their life every day of our life, of their life. Pray for the welfare of the government. Pray for the welfare of Israel. Besides our families and friends and members, etc., we need to pray. I remember the opening statement of today. Let us work in 3 areas of self-improvement. Number 1, honesty in the world of business. And I'm sorry I said number 1, number 2, number 3. In my book, they are all number 1. Avoid fighting, avoid arguing, treat people respectfully, be honest, be proper, and pray. Pray for protection, pray for salvation, pray for clarity. And the Zohar goes, I can go on for another hour probably, but I'm looking at the clock and the clock is looking at me. So I think I went into overtime. But the Zohar Kadosh writes, and it says that the world, and that's what the Zohar of today says, the world is experiencing a rebirth of the forces of darkness. When I mean forces of darkness, I don't mean only on the spiritual way, but the forces of fear. Honestly speaking, when people go to shul now, the other day somebody called up and he says, Rabbi, do you have a gate at the entrance of your synagogue? Rabbi, do you have a guard at the entrance of your synagogue? I said, yes, we have. And what else you're doing? I said, I cannot tell you what else I'm doing, but I want you to know that we are doing. Some things are visible, some things are not, some things will become more visible in the next few days. So Rabotai, unfortunately, all this is taking a toll on all of us. And for that reason, we need to remain united, pray for goodness, and make sure to remember one of the statements I said before. A bit of light dissipates a lot of darkness. And everybody needs to bring this into the daily life. And in this zechut, Hashem will bring the ultimate blessing to the world, which is the blessing of peace. As the Pasuk says, Hashem yevarech et amo b'shalom. The ultimate blessing that a person can hope for and pray for is the blessing of peace. Not only in your home, that's number 1, but with ourselves, with our surroundings, with our peers, with our relatives, with our friends, and gradually, hopefully, Be'ezat Hashem, that will expand to every citizen of the world. I know that what I'm asking perhaps may be too much, but guess what? This will be one of the ultimate goals and purposes of Mashiach's survival. To bring clarity, godliness, and harmony to the entire world. Irrelevant of the background, irrelevant of the religion, irrelevant of their beliefs, irrelevant of the color of the skin. When Mashiach comes, they will not make any difference. It will be a main game plan for the world. And I'm not talking about Independence Day movie. I'm not talking about the second version, I'm talking about the first one. Remember that? I saw it in the airplane a while back. And it's unbelievable how the nations of the world united to fight a common enemy. And Rabotai, guess what? Today the world has many common enemies. So Hashem should bless us, Hashem should protect us, and bring goodness and peace to the entire world. Amen. Amen.